welcome back.
Oh, go on.
Yes, go on then. Welcome back.
Straight in there. Yeah. Straight in there.
Didn't have a name assigned, so I took it. Listening to Breakfast and watching it, presumably, with Stephen and Isabel this morning.
Presumably, but you might
Presumably.
be.
Well, I said listening, so I thought I'd include the TV watchers as well.
You very well, yes. Open to all. Let's go through the papers this morning with broadcaster and host of Blethered, Sean McDonald, and legendary broadcaster Liz Kershaw. Good morning to you both. Liz, can we kick off with The Sun, please, because it's about Paul O'Grady.
Yeah, I mean...
what a shock that was.
It was such a shock. I woke up on Wednesday morning and there were all these texts saying, sorry to hear about Paul O'Grady. I was like, what? Yeah. And then it dawned on me and I rummaged through the papers online. It was a shock. He was just such a special person. He was on my radio show in 1993 as Lily Savage, in full costume, even though it was radio. He used to come in and review the telly. He was so bitchy.
Yeah.
But never nasty in a kind of contradictory way. Oh God, Liz, did you see the sights of her on Corrie the other night? She looked like, you know, and all that stuff. But you know what was special about Paul? Loads of people have eclipsed me. But he never forgot. And he was always there to support you when things were going really well. And he was always there to help you support you when you got kicked in the teeth by Life or the BBC. And he was so honest and courageous and straight. And vivacious, you know. I know he'd had 3 heart attacks, but last time I saw him, I hadn't seen him since last summer on the beach in Kent, and that's how I remember him now, tanned, laughing, funny, but he was just one of a kind. He was brave, and he spoke out when he thought something was wrong. He spoke out, and the exchanges by text we've had over the last couple of years, when I was resigned, the business about Ken Bruce and Paul himself. I mean, what they did to him, it was just disgusting. And I wish I'll never share it because it's personal, but if I could publish his tweets on BBC management, and his views on things like that. But the outpouring of love for him has been so genuine from the public, because they loved him and they loved his Radio 2 show. And what's sad about it is, I've thought, you know, people leave their job that they love after so many years. And I was driving along yesterday and I counted 5 people that have been dropped by BBC radio management and that have not lasted a year, you know. It does really hurt people, but I just really felt it because he was a special person, and I've been asked this, you know, in the last day to go on things. I thought, no, I don't like milking. I knew him, but I thought, I'm doing the papers, so if there's something in the papers about him, I'll bring it up. Anyway, this solves one clue, because what I didn't want to do was, I was in Kent, I didn't want to barge round and like, oh, what's happened? Not my place. But I was like, what's happened? Because his producer had been with him in the afternoon.
Malcolm.
Yeah, Malcolm Prince, who moved down there as well. And I'm glad to read, whether or not she should have disclosed it or not, it's in the public domain now, that he died peacefully in bed next to his husband. So I'm glad he didn't, because I was thinking, oh God, I hope he didn't get taken in an ambulance to Ashford Hospital, because it's one of the worst in the country, officially, under special measures. God help you. And he'd been in there, and he was always talking about how that hospital was so poor. But no, if he was going to die at 67... It was nice he was in his own place.
But peacefully is probably a lovely way to go. I mean, too young, 67 is no age at all, but I mean, unexpectedly but peacefully must be one of the best ways, I suppose.
Let's hope he didn't know anything about it.
Absolutely.
Then the Rolling Stones, I think one of the best tributes I've seen was Mick Jagger. He said, sex and drugs and Lily Savage. You know, the 3 things that can really mess you up.
Let's stick with extraordinary characters, but for very, very different reasons. Sean, you've chosen the story in The Eye about Charles Bronson, who described as as Britain's most notorious prisoner.
Yeah.
And, you know, an extraordinary story and a big blow for him yesterday, but there are thresholds that have to be met if he was to be released in society, and he didn't meet them.
Yeah, absolutely. To talk about thresholds, he's been previously diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, and is naturally somewhat suspicious of other people's motives and holds authoritarian views, a psychologist told the parole hearing. I did feel a bit sorry for him. I know I'm obviously looking at it through the lens of fascination and intrigue, but he's 70 years old. I think he spent 48 years after being sentenced to I think initially just a few years for an armed robbery.
7 years, I think it was. Yeah.
1974. He's since gone on to take, I'm not laughing, I shouldn't be laughing, 11 people hostage on 9 separate occasions, and I think the last one was a 43-hour siege in 1999. He is a real character, though. I think he told the parole board, it's no secret I've had more porridge than Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and I'm sick of it and I just want to go home. And unfortunately for him, his home is going to remain under His Majesty's pleasure.
But what I find very odd is, I mean, I in a way don't know a lot about him. You sort of know the name, but that's I just assumed he'd done some like really terrible things.
Well, when you think
an armed robbery.
Gary Glitter recently was released from prison.
Yeah,
you know, convicted paedophile.
Absolutely.
I know he's been back in. He broke his parole conditions.
Yeah.
But then you've got someone like Charles Bronson, who's, you know, not committed a murder, not raped anybody.
I mean,
and life in jail.
That's it.
But you know, the rules are the rules.
He's a very enigmatic character, and as I say, there's an allure and an intrigue about him. But he's obviously met some threshold of criteria, you know, for the psychologists that are evaluating him to say, well, you probably pose more of a risk to the public if we let you out.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, you've got to trust their judgment on that, but. It's, I mean, it's odd that he, you know, was first convicted when I was born.
Yeah.
And he's still in there.
I thought you were born in '85.
Oh, yeah, right. Pull the other one. What are you after? If only. Liz, can we have a look at the Times and car makers being told they've got to sell more electric cars, basically?
Yes, people are already finding that the value of second-hand electric cars has plummeted.
Really?
Yeah, the demand for it's plummeted, thus the price. And one of the reasons is the lack of charging points. We should have 300,000 and there are only 30,000 so far. I know that my son's now got an electric hybrid. Before he ventures out, he has to check the postcode of where he's going to find out if there's charging points available, because in order to run it on petrol, you have to start it and set off on the battery.
Right.
And it uses a lot more fuel per miles per gallon. Fewer, because you're carrying the weight of this battery. So it's all a bit premature, I think. And this drive for electricity is, I think, quite premature, because we don't have the means to make it. We don't have the nuclear power plants. We're still scrambling around using coal and wood chips imported from places like Brazil, which is hypocritical, to fire up our electricity production. And the other thing in the news this week tied to this was that the government wants more of our power in our homes to come from electricity and less from gas. So you won't be cooking on gas, you won't be able to have a gas boiler. And it's all to do with carbon emissions. As I say, it's slightly hypocritical because electricity doesn't come from nowhere. But I also think if we're all tied to the grid for electric, and we've all got smart meters, which is what they want to encourage, then they can switch us off, can't they? That's why they want to be able to organise the grid so they can turn it down here and turn it up there and turn it down at different times, which might seem practical. But I don't want to live in where somebody is sat there and controlling whether I can...
You wouldn't know the difference.
Would I not?
No, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know that. Look, I'm all for electric cars. I would love an electric car.
Why didn't you get one then?
Because the infrastructure isn't there.
Exactly, I've just said that.
Exactly,
yeah,
but that's the problem. And also the battery capacity isn't there for what I would want to use it for. So I have to stop. But it's. I mean, oddly enough, was. Sat next to a lady yesterday who was busy chatting to somebody else, but I was overhearing and saying she's got an electric car. And the problem is all the oh, you go to half the charging points and they're not working.
The other thing about electric cars, somebody came round to my house the other day. Now, you wouldn't come round to my house, would you, and say, can I just siphon out the petrol out of your lawnmower and put it into the car? But they come and they go, can I plug my car in?
Yeah.
So,
but you know, they say necessity is the mother of invention, and if they do set these quotas, these deadlines, you know, maybe these developments will speed along, the batteries will get lighter.
Yeah.
We are sort of like
a car kind of guy.
No, just petrol just now. I would get one, but yeah, I'm echoing the same as you guys. It just has to be set up and ready to go.
Sean, let's turn to the Times, shall we? I know you want to talk about what's been a big week for Scotland, and Hamza Yousaf, he's braced for his first electoral test now after this COVID shock suspension from Parliament for one of his members.
Yeah, straight in at the deep end. So to give viewers a wee bit of a rundown, we have Margaret Ferrier. She is the MP for Rutherglen. She travelled, I think she knew that she had symptoms, she had taken a COVID test, and she spoke in Parliament, and then she got the train back at a time when we were in a very precarious position. We didn't know the full extent or the possibilities of the outcome of infecting other people. Hamza Yousaf is basically calling for a by-election. I think he's confident that they could retain the Rutherglen seat, but I think he sees for the integrity of the party, and marked as has been wrongdoing. He is criticised. We've got Alan Dorrans, the SNP MP. He was on the committee and he voted with Conservative members to suspend her for just 9 days. I think Hamza thought it should have been a lot more. That was a point that was echoed as well by a local political commentator, Sophie McLaren, who's certainly got her ear to the ground and knows what constituents there are after. It is a big test because while I don't see a huge Labour resurgence, there is more of an appetite. I think we're on the cusp of a Labour government at the next general election, and that could swing some middle ground voters. So it is a massive test. It's a bit of a gamble, but I think for the integrity of the parties, it's the right decision. Yeah. I think there should definitely be a by-election, so that it depends. That'll be triggered if I think 10% or more of the constituents basically call for her to be ousted. And that one hangs in the balance.
It will be very interesting to see how that plays out. Sean, Liz, we've got to leave it there.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.